Hello family, it's African Esquire and I'm here with a new video. This is going to be a more simple video, but really I just wanted to give my thoughts on a couple of things and just speak to the people for a little while. I was just watching a interview with Lyor Cohen, and that was the Breakfast Club interview. If anyone does not know who Lyor Cohen is, basically he is a top music executive in America, and particularly he is most influential and has basically conquered the sphere of influence as far as hip hop. You don't really see him having the same power over other parts of the culture, but as far as hip hop, he has been one of those people who has really consolidated power. He's really very much in the background. You don't really hear from him. However, I have heard a lot of times as I was coming up that the music industry and Hollywood and entertainment industry, they say that they're ran by Jewish people who really stay behind the scenes. He's one of the people who people have used as an example as someone. He's actually Jewish and he really is behind the scenes. However, supposedly he's calling so many shots and really is a really powerful figure. But although he's Jewish, he's a powerful figure in hip hop. And we know that hip hop primarily is an African music form. It is a form that came out of Africans who were being oppressed, being politically, just facing political genocide really in the 70s and the 80s, and that's really where it came from. And that to this day, even though the music industry is very different, even though the music industry is not as potent and it's certainly not as black as far as mainstream music, you don't hear the same messages pertaining to African people. You don't hear the same lifestyle reflection, you know, even just like listening to music and feeling like, oh, this is what life is like for black people. You might not hear that nowadays. You might hear, if you turn on the radio or listen to mainstream music, you might hear a lot of things about drugs. You might hear a lot of things about strippers. You might hear a lot of things that may not necessarily reflect the majority of African people in the United States. However, historically, hip hop was that engine. Hip hop was that tool. Hip hop was the reflection of the culture, the reflection of African people who have been here for over 500 years, have been enslaved and been made a victim of this system. It was a reflection of what we deal with here. And although this has nothing to do with the Jewish struggle, a lot of people feel like, how is it that you're able to monopolize off of our struggle? How is it that although we are the primary talent, even though, you know, these people who might be doing the music now are certainly not as talented as people before, and certainly aren't doing things necessarily pertaining to black people like other rappers did in the 90s and the 80s. But still, the primary people who are mainstream rappers are still black people. And primarily it is our talent that is being exploited. And that leads a lot of people, if you read the comment section on the Breakfast Club interview, a lot of people are basically saying, hey, like, how is it that he's able to make money off of our culture? How is it that he's able to capitalize off of our culture? He's a culture vulture. And all of these things are, I think, very true. And any intelligent people would ask those questions. That's the thing. They'll try to make you feel like you're wrong for thinking this or feeling this way, but you would never see African people having the primary financial interest in golf, because golf primarily is something that's played by white males. You would never see them have their talents being used to profit someone who's not themselves. You would never see anyone, an Asian sport, a primarily Asian sport, a primarily Middle Eastern sport. Any intelligent people would not allow you to make the money, not allow you to make the profit off of their talents. It's just a common sense thing. If I'm the one that's talented in this, then that means that I have a monopoly on this. So the fact that African people have the primary talent as far as hip hop and rap, that automatically, as if we're an intelligent people, should mean that we have a monopoly on this particular type of music. But it doesn't, for some reason. It means that we're getting used, we're getting manipulated by people. So our talent is not profiting us. Our talent, and many times is actually hurting us, because a lot of these people who are pushed in front of the culture are not actually saying things to strengthen the Black community, saying things to build the Black community. They're certainly not putting their money back into the Black community, because a lot of these rappers will go and take that money and spend it outside of the Black community, because frankly, spending money in the Black community is not seen as lucrative. It's not seen as stunting. The stunting thing to do is to get a Rolls Royce. The stunting thing to do is to flash something that is from outside of your community. So the fact that the art form not only is being profited by us, but actually in many ways is being used to destroy us, even as far as the drug pushing. I mean, you got people pushing pills on teenagers, and we're listening to this, and it becomes normalized in our mind that we're taking pills, we're taking syrup, we're taking all these things. And most teenagers, if you don't know, start asking questions. If they're not using the stuff, they know someone, certainly who, Black teenagers, they know someone who is using these things. So again, it's not just that we don't control it, it's actually being used as a tool and a vehicle to destroy us and to destroy political dissent that once was prevalent in hip-hop. Once upon a time, when you had a public enemy, that was what hip-hop was used for. Now it's being used for a reverse role, and people are rightfully angry. My sentiment and why I used to get really angry at these things, and first you get angry at the person you're looking at, and I still did feel angry, to be honest, at certain points in the interview, because just the arrogance of these people outside of our culture who feel so entitled to their position, that it's always going to strike a chord, no matter how much you understand that this is normal for these people, no matter how much you understand that this has been going on for a long time. I mean, slavery, again, what was slavery? Slavery was literally taking the talents of other people, taking the hard work of other people, and profiting from it. So it's not like this is a different relationship. This is the same thing. It's what happened in slavery. It's what happened in Jim Crow. It's been happening to African people since we have been brought here in chains. So it still strikes a chord hearing the arrogance of some people who feel entitled, and they've been conditioned to feel entitled, because what have we always been taught? We've always been taught that this is the way things are. We have been conditioned to believe that it is normal for us to not be in control of ourselves, but to have someone controlling us. We've never, even though the education system pretends to be something that's trying to help everyone be equal, they've never empowered us to feel like we should be in control of ourselves. I mean, forget being in control of others, just being in control of ourselves. We've never been empowered to feel that way, and you know that we haven't been empowered to feel that way, because if we were, someone like Marcus Garvey would be taught in the school curriculum. Marcus Garvey wasn't saying get on welfare. He wasn't saying ask white people for this, or be their servant, do this, do that. He was saying, no, we need to be self-sustaining. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to build industries. We need to connect with each other around the world and actually build Africa so that we don't have to beg anyone for anything. And despite the fact that he was saying something that's what they teach their children, that's what they teach their students, despite the fact that he was saying something that was just so common for them, the fact that he was saying it means that he had to be dealt with, that he had to be eliminated. And he certainly would never be taught in the American education system. Because I'll say for me, only thing I ever learned is from Marcus Garvey when I was in grade school was that he was a part of the Back to Africa movement. And at that point in my life, I was like a lot of us in America who have been separated from Africa and made to look at Africa as this like doomsday world where everything is horrible. So when I'm like, oh, he wanted us to go back to Africa, forget that. And so it's more like reinforcing the idea of, oh, well, why would we want to do that? So it was never a understanding of who Marcus Garvey was, what he was really calling for. So you know that they're not interested in us controlling ourselves. But all of this being said, The interview should not make us so reactionary to feel hurt necessarily, but I think it should make us react to actually learn to study what other people do, how other people think, how they view us. And I'm starting to learn that more and more. I'm reading The Art of War by Sun Tzu right now, and it's really making me think that we have to study what other people do. We can't just get angry and call people culture vultures. If you're not going to study what these people are doing in order to put you in this position, study what they have figured out about you, because they've studied us. Understand, when it comes to our consumer habits, when it comes to how we treat each other, they have studied us. They know our weaknesses. They know what they can sell to us. They know what they can get away with telling us. They know how they can control us. So the revolutionary thing is never to be reactionary as far as just reacting and feeling angry. Oh, look at this man. He's this Jewish dude who's gonna tell me this. That's never revolutionary. The revolutionary thing is to say, okay, well, he's saying this, but let me start studying what he's saying and start studying what their behavior and how they view us and what they're going to do to us. Because if we don't start studying what these people are doing and how they're doing it, then we're always going to be on the receiving end. And that's really what I wanted to drive home on with that particular point, is that we have to learn to study the other side. We have to learn to study our oppressor. Don't take it for granted. Don't study the Chinese. I'm starting to study them right now, because honestly, if our way of trying to change things as far as what's happening in Africa, if you don't know, I posted a lot of videos about how China is really taking the place of the Western imperialists in Africa. But the thing about China, which is probably more difficult to analyze, unlike the United States, unlike European countries, China isn't as beholden to giving an image of being a humane society. So, for example, we know that Europeans are very good for that. They want to make themselves look humane. They feel like human rights, that's our thing. We're for human rights of women, human rights of gays, human rights of blacks. Everyone gets human rights. But if you start calling them out on, well, if you're for human rights, then what about this? What about that? What about you supporting this regime? What about you having a mind that does this to people, to its workers, who exploits its workers? What about you coercing certain leaders to do what you want them to do? So you start calling them under human rights abuses. The West feels like, hey, I have to actually defend this image because, hey, this is kind of like what I write on. I have to be a human rights advocate. The United States somewhat feels that, because the United States is definitely separated from that, in that they're very clear that when we draw the line, we will draw the line. At the same time, the United States knows that they can't be all the way out here looking like they're a rogue nation. So they try to still keep the appearance of being a human rights advocate, but they're definitely not as committed as having that appearance as the West is. China does not give an F. If you know anything about how some of their citizens are dealing, how the rates of just the death penalty in China, just so many things going on in China, you know, they don't care about that. So it's our job, knowing that, you know, that's not necessarily somewhere where we'll probably be most effective, to figure out and to study other people. Study what they know about us and study what we can figure out about them. That's what the answer is, I think. It's not to just start commenting on the Breakfast Club interview and just feeling anger and just feeling, oh my gosh, we're so powerless. Yes, we know we're powerless, but guess what? And reinforcing the fact that we're powerless is not going to change anything. If we're really trying to change something, then we're going to have to start studying. We're going to have to start reading. We're going to have to start being as avid about learning as we are about entertaining. In fact, you should be more. You know, I think when you hit a certain level as far as just outrage, as far as consciousness of things that are going on around you, it becomes difficult to even watch some of the things that you might have watched before. I know for me it has. I can't watch some certain shows anymore. I can't feel anything that I feel like tries to normalize the situation of Africans in America. I can't get into it. Anything that tries to reinforce stereotypes, I certainly can't get into. So the focus of us, I'm trying to say, is really needs to shift from feeling hurt, and I know we do feel hurt because we have been victimized, but really needs to see ourselves as having the same capabilities of studying and learning and actually turning things around. Understand that China just emerged from horrible years of their history where they really weren't as productive as other powers in the world. And if they can do that type of turnaround, African people, we can certainly do the same thing. So don't think that we are destined to always be powerless. Yes, we do not have power, but we are not destined for that. We are destined for greatness if we are willing to pay the price, if we're willing to do the hard work, the research, the studying, just intelligent studying, trying to figure everything out. That's where we really see that we can actually turn our situation around and our condition around and actually have a livable condition and actually be in control of our own destinies. So that's all I'll say about that part. The other thing I wanted to talk about is I watched something else on YouTube, and this actually was total different subject. It was in regard to Willie D. So I've been watching Willie D's channel for a while. He has a channel on YouTube. Many of you might know him from the Ghetto Boys, and I'm sure all of you have seen his videos because he's constantly uploading videos, but I didn't realize that he was banned from YouTube. And it was interesting. I was watching the press conference on the Advice Show of him talking about how he has been banned from YouTube. He was just, and to me, I've never seen him say anything too controversial as far as like, it's not like he's out here just making stuff up. Like everything he's saying, any person could look it up and back it up and say, oh, okay, yeah, this is there. Or, okay, this might be his perspective, but regardless, like it's not out there to where he's just making stuff up. But regardless, YouTube banned him for really speaking truth. And my understanding is his channel is now back up. And I'm guessing he was about to sue YouTube. And if you have a good documentation of what type of videos you post and the fact that you don't do anything hateful, and they're saying that you're using hate speech, then okay, that's a good basis to sue someone. So I'm guessing that that's what happened. The reason I want to talk about this because I'm starting to realize more and more a lot of Africans on the internet, I realized, were celebrating because Alex Jones was actually kicked off of YouTube, or banned from YouTube is the correct term. He was also banned from Facebook, I think Twitter, a lot of social media accounts completely banned him. A lot of people don't like Alex Jones. I'm not one who does either. He's a conspiracy theorist. He's definitely believed to be aligned with a lot of racist sentiment. He has certainly espoused a lot of racist statements and speech. So this is not something that would hurt us. But the thing to keep in mind is that when COINTELPRO was going on, and really any time that the United States government was trying to quench Black liberation movements, we were oftentimes grouped with the people who were like Alex Jones, meaning it wasn't just, oh, we're going to go after the Black Panthers. It was, oh, they're just like the KKK. So they grouped us together, and they were using similar operations in order to disband both movements. Now, I'm not saying this to give sympathy to the KKK. They're obviously murderers. They're obviously terrorists. What I'm trying to put the perspective out there is we have to be prepared that this is actually going to start unrolling more and more with our own people, that we're going to start seeing prominent YouTubers who are speaking truth, not saying anything that can't be verified or found in some type of news source, but who are being targeted. Because once they start going after white supremacists to basically shut them down, they're going to use the same basis to go after us. So I'm saying all that to say, I really hope that we're prepared, and I'm speaking for myself. And honestly, if anyone has any ideas, I mean, I was thinking like, I have to start thinking out of the box as far as, well, what type of platforms can I have as not just backups, but realistically, do you always want to rely on someone else? Like, don't you want to build your own platform? And, I never wanted to do Patreon just because I've always felt like I liked the idea of doing free content. I don't do any YouTube advertisements. I'm not a YouTube partner. And the specific reason is because I feel like I don't want anything to do with the capitalist machine when I get up on here. I don't want money for what I'm saying, or as far as like I don't want to get money from the things I'm saying. I actually just want to speak to my people and just be honest and not feel like I have anything to gain from it, if that makes sense. So, that's not to say I'll never be on Patreon, but that's kind of the reason I haven't looked into it too much. But I definitely understand that just relying on YouTube and Facebook, two social media websites that have a history of completely censoring Black liberation talk, and not even just the crazy talk, but all talk, like anything that is about, or I'm sorry, what can be perceived as being crazy, because oftentimes these people are perceived as being crazy. They're responding to a crazy system, and that might make you seem crazy when you're calling something out, but it's just because other people don't know what it is that's happening doesn't make you crazy. So the perception of crazy people, they might not even be, they could be someone like a Van Jones who's just nice and chill with everything, but I see people getting banned who aren't necessarily standing out as being the most controversial figures. And that definitely has to be a wake-up call for us. So I'm just saying that to say, anyone has any ideas, I'm constantly, I read my comments, even if I don't, like or comment on every one of them. I do read them throughout the day, so I know I'm brainstorming, but that definitely has to be something that's in us, that we're thinking. The internet, it feels so good right now, but I think we know we're kind of like edging towards a cliff where it's like things about to get shut down, and we're seeing it more and more. Facebook has what's that guy's name? Mark, the guy who invented Facebook. I forget his name. They're feeling like, okay, we have to start censoring people because we have so much backlash going on right now. We have to start telling people this, telling people that, and we're really seeing this roll out. And more, especially with the net neutrality now off the table, we're edging towards the internet no longer being free communication. And so understanding that yes, it's great that a bigot got silenced as far as Alex Jones, but anytime that they have shown that they'll do it to those who we might not like, but still those who are out there saying things that are controversial, they're more than willing to use that same thing on you. So I'm just saying to my other people who also put out messages, put out videos, that we do have to, I think, prepare for that, and I myself have to prepare for that. So that's really all I have for tonight. I'd love to see your thoughts, and I will see you all in another video.